Welcome back to the podcast. I am here today again with Dr. Anna Machado, our chair of theology. So grateful. She's all the way here from Portugal. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Machado.
Thank you, Emma, for receiving me again in here. I'm always very grateful for this opportunity to talk about this subject.
Good. Well, we're always happy to have you. So you're here for a very special event that you held with the USCCB on Monday. You held a workshop on marriage and family life ministry in the United States. You gave a beautiful presentation along with Julia Dzelski and Jimena DeBrook. And I would love to hear kind of what inspired opening up that conversation with the USCCB and then how you went about planning the workshop and how it went.
Well, this was a workshop because we were there with people both in presence and online from more than 30 dioceses from the United States. And the idea was to better understand what are the needs in ministries in the Catholic Church regarding family. We had people from family ministry, family and life ministry, well, people from evangelization, Catholic education, from vocations. We have people and we were all together there to think how can we better prepare church leaders for this incredible challenge, which is to help families become what they are, quoting a very well-known sentence from St. John Paul II.
That's really beautiful. I really enjoyed attending. I'm so grateful to be there and to hear your presentations. And you were working with Julia Dzelski in planning the event. She's the Associate Director of Marriage and Family Life at the USCCB. I'd love to hear more about your conversations with her and how you guys deliberated in planning this workshop.
Yes. We met, I think that Providence is at work here, very clearly. Providence is at work everywhere and in every moment, but sometimes we see it more clearly. And we both obviously have this call to help families that are in a difficult situation right now. In our society, families don't have it easy. But we know that the church has an incredible wealth that is the wisdom that we receive from the revelation. We receive it from the beginning in the Genesis, where God tells us that we are men and women and He wants us to live in families. And then Jesus comes and gives us even more detailed ideas of how to live beautifully as a family, as a large family, the church family, but also as the small families, which are the domestic churches. So we have also, in the last decades, studies on social sciences that also help us to understand real families and how, with all their problems, difficulties, and challenges, and the richness of our culture, how can we embody what we receive from Revelation? So there is a wealth that we have in the church. But then we see that in church ministries, sometimes that doesn't arrive at people. So our idea was to think, we have here this incredible wealth. We have here a lack in the people that is working with families. And it is not just family ministry, because everyone is working on families. Church leaders, everyone is working on families, because youth is people that have their families. Families should be integrated in youth ministry. Catholic education, parents should be involved. So everyone needs to better understand the reality of families and how can they better bring to the world the good news that Jesus brought us. So a wealth a lack. And then we thought that at Catholic International University, we can be a help to bridge this gap. And then we had this idea of creating new programs for church leaders to enter in this new paradigm, because it is a new paradigm of how accompanying families, not just in the moment of the sacrament where they receive the sacrament and they get married, but to accompany families from cradle to the tomb, and to see every step in church ministry as a part of this whole process, and to have it not in silos, but integrated. Everyone talking to everyone and understanding each other.
That's so beautiful. It's so exciting. I would love to see that. I'm just looking back on my own life and how I grew up in church. And as you said, it was like the ministry was in silos, right? Of like, when you're a kid, and then, middle school, high school, maybe there's young adult ministry, and then ministry for the older, marriage and so on, married and kids and so on. And so it would be so beautiful to have that all integrated, not only for, like you said, so that we have specific people walking with these families, but also so that, the community can be integrated as a whole, and not everybody's, broken up into pockets. And, maybe we have kids with their parents actually interacting with each other at some of these events and community ministries. I would love to see that.
Yes, and I think that we are part of our society. And one aspect of our society is this work in silos. You go to any enterprise and you have this department and that department and that department, and it is difficult for people to talk and work together. So it is normal that in church ministries the same happens, because we are the people.
Right.
But so we can, in business world, people are aware of this and see this as something that we must work on. So we also want to bring this knowledge of a way of working together, integrated into church ministry, and in this very important subject, which is family.
Wow. No, I totally agree. I mean, you see that just in the culture today, with parents working, kids in school, kids in sports, just outside of the church. You see that on a grand scale. Everybody's isolated, and we don't need that in the church as well, right? Church should be the place where we all come together. And again, even just thinking of young adults, in young adult ministry today, you see a separation between those that are maybe, younger, out of college, single, and then maybe those that are married and with kids, and just having places and a community where everybody's together and everybody can kind of learn from each other, and learn from somebody 2 generations up, and help take care of the kids, because it does take a village. And so that's such a beautiful vision.
Yes, and it's obvious that we will also have, and we will always need, specific moments for specific groups. But this goes together.
Right.
It's not an either or. It's an and.
That's beautiful. That's so great. Yeah, so I wanted to address, there's been a lot of movements in the church, especially when we're looking at the generation of Gen Z, right? We see a lot that have left the church. We've seen a lot that have come into the church beautifully. I want to first address those that have left the church. Do you have any research, or do you have an understanding of why we're seeing that generation leave the church, and what we could do differently to serve the future generation?
Well, I will also want you to tell me some things that you know, because I know that you know many things, and they are important. I will say that there are very good characteristics of this younger generation that, in a way, are making them a bit not too confident on the church, which are, for instance, their need for truth, a true life, they expect a lot. So this is a call for us, the ones that are following Jesus, to really follow him, to live in the truth, to live the joy from the truth that we so much love at Catholic International and in the church. So I think that to help the ones who are living, the first thing is to be real Christians, to be really like Jesus teaches us to be, because it is not so much the words that we say that are important. That's why we are talking, but the way we live that will help people come near Jesus or stay apart because they think this is not where I can find the true love, which is God, which is Jesus.
I think that's so true. I couldn't agree with you more. When looking at those members of my generation that have left the church, there's a mental health crisis that's going on in my generation. Primarily, I think the rise of technology is a big reason. There's a few different reasons, and when you're struggling with your mental health, and then you receive maybe some catechesis that's a little bit incomplete, maybe a little bit more fear-based. It's induced a lot of scrupulosity in people, which is a form of anxiety. And I know many people in my generation have left the church because of that, because it's too much to carry, right? And like I said, I think that comes from a lot of incomplete teachings and or incomplete catechesis. And like what you said, I mean, what I want to show them is that you can live a full life, a beautiful life, a life that's free. Within a structure, we have freedom, and there's so much beauty in creating a family and creating a life. And so, I completely agree that being able to represent living out what is true and good and beautiful, and showing that to that generation, and showing it as a solution to what they're struggling with, is the right way to go about it.
Yes. And when we were talking, I was remember the sentence of one of the fathers of the church of the early centuries, St. John of Damascus. And he said that God, what he wants from us is that we accept being saved.
Wow.
And he thanks us for this, for accepting the salvation that he brings us. So I think that this is really a strong, heavy problem that people have on their shoulder, is to think that they have to be their own saviors. And no, our savior is Jesus. But if you have religious formation that teaches you what you have to do, but doesn't show you all the help that you'll have to live like that. So you say, I'm not capable of this, and I don't want to live with this burden on my shoulders. So there is people that are going away in a spirit of giving up. And it is a pity.
Right. No, I could not agree with you more. Because the primary religion in Gen Z right now is nihilism. It's none, None, is what they answer in the survey. And like you said, it's a complete giving up, because maybe their experience of religion, maybe their experience of Christianity, as you said, was just too much. And it's so contrary to the gospel, because as you say, like, the gospel teaches us that we just need to be receptive of the Lord's gifts and his mercy. And of course, we're called to live a life that glorifies the Lord. But, what the way that we get there is a day by day process. It's not all at once. And I think that is the message of the gospel. And I hope that, as you said, as we begin forming families in a different way, and we begin kind of spreading that good news maybe in a different way, then we can show people that, to live fully human within the church is possible, and it's not through a fear-based teaching.
Yes. And then you told about the ones that are coming to the church. And those are also a challenge for us, because they come many times with wants from their family life, and their idea of family is not as beautiful as it could be. So we also have to go at the point where family is today, and help people understand that there is a path that one can follow and be able to create their own families more in line of this gift of love that God wants us to experiment precisely in the domestic church, which is each person's family.
That is such a good point. It's not something I would have thought of. Like you said, there is an influx of even Gen Zers that are coming to the church as well, which is such a gift, and I'm so grateful to see that happening. And many of them maybe didn't come from a Christian family or a Catholic family, maybe came from a broken family, and so they don't have a blueprint, right? And so offering that blueprint for them, what do you think? I wouldn't even know where to start there. What do you think are the most important aspects when it comes to teaching them what a marriage and family should look like?
Well, this was one of the main motives of the workshop that we talked in the beginning, because at Catholic International, we have some ideas. Yes, we do. We have big dreams, but we also know that there is so many things that people who are in direct contact with the families, broken families, not broken families, in a day-to-day life in their church ministries, there are so much wisdom that they have. So we create this workshop. The idea was mainly to listen to them, to hear what they think is important at these moments when we are trying to help people live accordingly to what is to be a family. And it was impressive because we received so many inputs that now we will have to work on and to integrate in a program that can help people that are in the field today.
That's so amazing. So you said 30 dioceses were represented at this workshop. So you probably have so much that you're sifting through. Is there anything in particular that you've seen so far that's really stood out to you?
Well, one thing that stood with me was that one person that came to me and said, first of all, we must listen to the Holy Spirit. And I thought, yes, we should never forget that He is the one who will guide us. And so I'm still in the moment where I'm a bit overwhelmed with all the information, all the incredibly good information that we received. And I hope that in like a few months we can have a new conversation where we can discuss a bit. But you were also there. So what stood you do
Absolutely.
with you?
Yeah. I was so grateful to be there and to get to pop into some of the small groups. And one that I noted and I agreed with is this need for psychology to be a factor because, as I said, we're living in the mental health crisis right now. It's an epidemic. And so, that goes across generations. And so somebody who's equipped to handle, to see, when we're talking about a formator within the marriage and family ministry, to be able to see when a family might need some psychological help and maybe outsource that and refer, but also guide through that process. Is that something that you've seen as well?
Yes, I have seen this. I have seen the very beautiful integration between all areas of human knowledge. Psychology, the need for other social sciences. I remember that when I started studying theology, it was clear that theology needs philosophy. Yes, we need philosophy for many reasons, but I think that it is even more clear today that it is a cosmos. It is an organic body of knowledge that comes to us to serve each person. And yes, it is clear that this certificate or this program that we are going to create will have a theological aspect, which is very important because it is what we know,
Foundation.
the foundation.
Yeah.
But it will also have inputs from other sciences.
Absolutely. Another a thing that really stood out to me was just a discussion around the model that we've seen in terms of youth ministry in the past, which is this idea of, on Wednesday nights or Sunday nights, like get as many kids into a room as you can and then give a talk and maybe have dinner or something like that. And how that, we haven't really seen that model work in the past few decades, and a shift away from what we typically see to maybe a more integrative model where, I heard some ideas of, a mother-daughter baking night, or like a
Yes.
father-son fishing trip, and where men can get together with their sons, and so that the boys can see other male role models other than just their
Yes.
dad, but then also get that community time with their dad, and kind of just basing ministry in community first.
Yes.
And then, bringing in the teachings where we can as well, but the primary piece being the community.
Yes. For instance, we have it in the catechesis because now in many places we have family catechesis. Also, parents are active as also receiving, but also giving. And I think we are in this direction of a more communitarian way of living the faith, maybe less focus on the individual and more focus on our relationships.
Yes.
See everyone in their interrelational system, and not just see and understand, which is important, but help to live these relations in an everyday life.
Totally. I completely agree, because that's the thing, is like we're made for a relationship with God and with each other. And so ultimately that's where catechesis is going to come through primarily. And so if you're having these conversations with, whether it be your mom or your dad or another adult, and you receive their love for Jesus, through that conversation, it makes sense that would be the most beautiful way to do it. I love that idea of family catechesis as well, because, so many parents, like, they might drop their kids off at, like, again, CCD youth group, what have you, but their kid might come back with questions that they don't have the answer to. And so being able to do that as a family that's a really beautiful idea.
Yes, and the other very special thing about this workshop was, as I said, we had people from many ministries, and we really wanted to continue in the program that we are creating, because the idea is that this program, the certificate, will finish with a practicum where people will not work just a project, individual projects, but will be able to have a project between 3 people from the same dioceses, for instance, one from youth ministry, one from marriage and family life, one from Catholic education, and deal with the situation of their dioceses, create a project that will help to bring this new way of dealing with family in the church. And this is one of the aspects that I think will be very important in our project.
I love that. I think, so much of what we do at Catholic International is forming those that are currently working in the positions that they're in, right? We've seen that across our departments. And so giving them not only that education that they can use directly in their field, but even giving them a way to offer what they're learning, to their community directly and then receive feedback from you all. That's so amazing.
Yes, because you also know that when we enter in a master degree or whatever, if it is a good program, it is transformational.
Mm-hmm.
But when one person enters, it is that person that is transformed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the work of bringing this transformation to their place of work, it's hard because I was transformed, but the context remained the same.
Right.
So our idea is that if there is not just one that goes through this process of transformation, because we want our formation to be transformational in this good sense that the Holy Spirit drives, not just one person that is transformed, but that person and that person and that person. If they go, it's easier to transform the context because they are not alone. They are a team. I think that I always look at the Holy Trinity when I think of teams, because they will always work as a team.
Right.
So we should always work like them. Each one acts as how he is, but they don't do things individually. They do things united by their love with same aim, and this is so important for us in everyday life.
Yeah, as you're talking, and throughout this whole discussion, I'm realizing, everything that we've been talking about is relational, right? And it's,
Yes.
that marriage and family life is the heart of the church, and
Yes.
just being able to serve families by bringing them together, it's just so beautiful, and it almost feels like the missing link that was always there, right? And so it's just so exciting.
Yes, because you think about the first Christians, the church is the Christians, and they understood that they, with their families, were the church. And they, with their families, were the ones that would bring the good news all over the world. And I think that in the last decades, we are like becoming aware again that the church is in our hands, but is in our hands as families and as whatever we are. But the future, there is this idea that the future of the world is in the family. The future of the church is in the family. So it is so important that we empower families to bring the church where the Lord wants us to go.
Absolutely. And I think it also speaks to, I've heard many people say that we've seen more married saints come through in the last few generations, and that's been really inspiring to a lot of young people of like, oh, I can live out my vocation as a married person, as a lay person, and be a saint.
Yes.
And I think that really addressing this ministry kind of can help propel people towards that.
Yes, because marriage is a call to holiness. As marriage is a sacrament. It is the only natural reality that God put as a sacrament. And it means that it is a call, it is a vocation from God, and that there he has all the graces for the spouses to live their vocation, to live their calling. And yes, this is a very, in a way, very antique reality, because what I said,
It's been around forever. Yeah.
first Christians understood that.
Right.
But it is always new, because it is like the woe things, the very important things, the eureka things. You can hear it in theory, but you only start living it when you you have an encounter with what that does mean. We want every family to have this encounter, which is the encounter of with their vocation as a family to be a domestic church, to be a path to holiness, to be a source of joy in the world, to be. Uh,
That's so beautiful. And I'm so excited. So okay, so Catholic International, we put on this workshop with the USCCB. We've taken, all of this information, we're sifting through it. What's coming next?
well, it will come this program for the people that are already church leaders or who are preparing to be church leaders. And our idea, and as I say, we received lots of ideas, so we are going to work on it because we want really to incorporate it in our program. But so the idea is that this will be a program, and the courses that will be in it will be also equivalent to any graduate course that we have. So someone who starts with a certificate in family life issues, family ministry, or can continue, for instance, for a master in theology, and will end up with a master in theology with a specialization in family ministry, for instance. So this, I ask for prayers because I think there is a lot of potential in this, a lot of potential of holiness for all the church, of healing for so many people, because this goes deep in our human life.
Absolutely.
And so it will be important that it
That's so exciting. And what's so awesome about it, too, is that anybody can take it from anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
Because it's international. And so you don't need to live near a specific university, right? Because we are fully online. And so you really could serve every U.S. diocese and even beyond.
Yes. Our idea is that as we are thinking of people that are already working on these fields, we know that just as people came to our workshop and brought with them so many ideas, it will be so important that in the program, the participants will learn from each other. They will bring their own experience. They will bring, and this is one very interesting thing of not being in a physical place, because in a cohort you have people from one diocese that is from East Coast, another from West Coast. One diocese that is very flourishing, and one diocese that is in a mission place. And everyone can learn from everyone.
That is such a good point. I mean, I'm from a very rural area of Texas, and so I definitely saw, I guess in many ways, like the lack in ministry where I'm from. And then moving up to the DC area, I was so shocked to see this like flourishing communities up here. And, those that, live down south, they have no idea, what it could look like. And so that's such a great point, that being able to learn from each other and see.
But I'm totally sure that the ones in here can also learn from the ones in your place of origin.
Absolutely. Everybody, yes, completely. Everybody has different problems that they're addressing, and they can face them together. And so that's so awesome. So one of my roles at Catholic International is I get the opportunity to speak to a lot of prospective students. And many of the prospective students that I'm seeing come through, they are working in the church, but they've never received any formal training in theology. And we were just having a discussion about how we have a new master's in theology and catechetics that's really going to serve that population. I'd love to hear you speak to it.
Yes, it's really that. The needs creates the offer. And there are many people that started working like in the diocesan offices or in Catholic schools or parishes. And when they started working there, they understood two things. on one side, they want to go deeper on the knowledge of the faith. But at the same time, they want it to be with a very practical focus, to be able to apply it to what they are working on, be it education, be it catechetics, be it evangelization. The part on theology is very clear. These courses that are essential for a good, deep understanding of theology. So you get a master in theology. And then in the part, it is theology and catechetics. And we know that the reality of our students is very different. So in this second part, there is much more flexibility. A student that is more interested in educational methods can follow a course from our Department of Liberal Arts and Education. A student that is more, who is more interested in evangelization can have this course on Wisdom and Hope, the new problems and new challenges for evangelization, and so on. So this part has a flexibility that accompanies the interests, the aims of each participant.
That's so exciting. And then one thing I wanted to mention too from our discussion earlier is the capstone project. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes. And then because the idea is that it will be immediately applicable to the reality. So we have these 11 courses, and the last one is the capstone. And in the capstone, it is the student that, with the orientation of the supervisor, the supervisor from Catholic International and the on-site supervisor, designs a project and implements it. So with these very important helps, when he finishes his master, he's really very well prepared both intellectually and in a very much hands-on approach.
In leadership and in the executive piece, so that you actually know that they're able to execute their projects as they move out of the program. That's so awesome. Well, that's so exciting. And I've absolutely loved hearing about y'all's work on family life ministry and that those upcoming programs, as well as this new program that is available now, right? The Master's in Theology and Catechetics is available. And so thank you so much for this discussion, for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's been a huge gift.